And so soon, we'll all be back to normal. The virus will have dried up. We'll be back scheduled at physical events and that sort of thing. And we have a chance to go at recruiting members again and populating events and doing all the things that Rotarians do on a weekly basis. And I thought it would be interesting today to talk about some of these lessons. I just have 5 quick ones. We'll move through them very quickly. The first one is that that being busy isn't necessarily being productive. That a lot of times when we hold meetings or we present content to people, we're not really digging deep to make sure that it's nutritious content. In my case, I like to be both educational and entertaining. In the case of COVID, we were hoping that most of the information would be educational, and yet there's been tons and tons of misinformation. I think we can all agree on that. Give me a thumbs up if you think that there's been a lot of misinformation. Even today, I'm reading things that, that were disputed a few days ago. So it's really amazing. And I think that Rotary needs to do a better job of explaining to people what we're really about, you know, because there's a lot of misconceptions about Rotary. There's certainly misconceptions about where Rotary is going. And so let's keep an eye on that as we move forward. Number 2, necessity is indeed the mother of invention. I am so proud of Rotary and how they've come to these electronic Zoom meetings. I first brought Zoom to my district in 2015, everybody. So we've been using it for 5 years in my district. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of the clubs that did not develop it, did not adapt it. Only now that we've had to meet electronically by Zoom are people figuring out how beneficial it is. And I don't think that Zoom meetings will become the norm. I think people love to get together, not just Rotarians, but people in general love to get together, to break bread, to smile. And yes, there will be hugging, I hope. But how many committee meetings could be done by Zoom where they would not only be more nutritious and more efficient, but maybe even better attended than physical meetings? That would be an interesting thing moving forward. Number 3, third thing that we've learned from COVID-19 is that in order to communicate effectively with people, you need a communication platform, what they call in the military comms, C-O-M-M-S. And these days, of course, Rotary, like other organizations, is having trouble getting people to open email and then answer that email and click on links, which is how we register for physical events these days. And since not everybody opens and clicks on email, we try to get to people through social media. It seems like Facebook is the place where most Rotarians are frequenting. And yet, if you just post your next event on Facebook, there will be a body of people that cannot get that information because they're not using Facebook. So what are we going to do moving forward? Will we continue to have multiple platforms where we reach each other? Is there a way that we can better cultivate and curate our Facebook following online so that we can get more Rotarians to jump into that swimming pool? I guess these are answers that each individual club will have to figure out. Number 4, and we'll take some questions here at the end if we have time, is that once you have that communication platform, I think it's really important to have a megaphone so that you can get the word out to those people. For example, if you have a Facebook group, or if you have a Rotary club of 100 people, and I know yours is a bit larger than that, if you have a Rotary club of 100 people, is it conceivable that you could have 500 friends in your Facebook group? If you have a district conference of, and the district has 1,200 members or 1,500 members, is there a way to get 2,000 people to the district conference? Is there a way to make Rotary bigger than what it really is? And use that as a way to pull people more into our funnel. Because you know what they say about a funnel, it's if gravity's working, it's really hard to get out of that funnel once you get them in. Once people really understand what Rotary offers, they don't leave unless we give them reasons to leave, which is another thing we need to be looking at. And speaking of which, the 5th and final point is this idea of better presentations in Rotary. It's not lost on me that Rotary clubs often surrender the bulk of their meeting time to an unknown speaker. Sometimes nobody's even heard the speaker. Sometimes even the program chair hasn't heard the speaker. In our club, we insist that the speaker at Troy Rotary meetings have a 2-minute promotional video on YouTube that we can see in advance so that we know exactly what we're getting. And That way our members are less likely to have a bad experience because we had a less than speaker. So these are the types of things that we try to put in place up in the North Country here in Michigan. I have 2 Facebook groups that you may be interested in joining. They're both free. The first one is called Get the Word Out Now, and you can get ongoing marketing tips for your great club. Get the Word Out Now. And the second is called Present Like a Pro. And this is for anybody that does any kind of speaking, particularly speaking for Rotary. Will help you become a better speaker so that you can enrich your content and serve our great organization even better. We'll take some questions from the best service organization in the world. And I don't know how we're handling that, Dana. Are you helping me with questions? Perhaps they're coming through in the Zoom chat. I don't really know.
Michael, can you repeat the second one?
Yeah, for sure. It's Present Like a Pro.
There you go. Thank you.
And for that group, you'll get ongoing presentation tips. So there are a lot of salespeople in the group. There are a lot of Rotarians in the group. Anybody that's ever in front of a microphone, and of course, we're now in front of microphones in a whole different way, right? Online.
Mm-hmm. Michael, I heard you ask me, and I would just say if anybody has a question, maybe type it in chat, or you can use the raise your hand feature.
Yeah, and I'll stay in. I'll stay in after the program's done and answer the chat if you'd like, Dana.
Okay.
I've got one.
Teddy, go ahead.
Okay, so I love the idea of, especially for our club, and I know Scott and we've talked about this in committees and things about before, of being able to share our luncheon meeting online for snowbirds, people who are at home. In my case, I was home for a long time. That would be great. And I think with all the technology we've got now, Zoom seems to be perhaps the way, I mean, you're streaming it on Facebook as well that I see. Maybe even just going forward for our club, we could revisit that and do that so that those that can attend that meeting on Monday can still participate, even if it's not, you know, interactive like this is, but at least we can see and hear what's going on. For you, the question would be, Michael, the technology part of it, yes, a phone, a camera, you know, whatever it is up there. Have you guys already done such a thing where you stream a meeting? And any tips or tricks in your trade of what would be the best way to do that on the technical side of it to make sure it's a good experience?
You bet. I think the streaming on Facebook is the easy solution, Teddy, for the technical fix. I think the bigger problem is having a 1-hour meeting that's actually interesting. Because what happens a lot live is that we have what they call in the radio business dead air, and little asides and jokes that are done off mic that people can't hear. And so you end up with this kind of odd little showcase of things. Maybe the speaker is mic'd properly and framed properly, but it's hard to broadcast the meeting experience. So I think that's one of our biggest challenges. One of the reasons that TED, you all know TED, TEDx and TED Talks have eaten our lunch. When you think about this, TED has grown exponentially at a time where Rotaries had trouble growing. And TED features 18-minute talks. And they record every single one of them, Teddy, and they put them online and they get YouTube views. But in a way, maybe it's good that Rotary hasn't recorded all of our talks at meetings, because some of those talks aren't very good. We have a similar problem on Facebook where we just post any photo just because it's in our phone. We post it online, but that's our image, man. And I tell people, if we're going to be people of action, you got to stop posting photos of Rotarians sitting around.
Good point.
So a little bit of editing on the photo side, and maybe even editing maybe not broadcasting the entire Rotary meeting, but just the excellent keynote talks. Maybe not even all the keynote talks, just the excellent ones. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. I think we have like 50 participants today, and I think our club membership is, Scott, you help me with this, but I think, what, 285, 290? That seems to me to be a low percentage of participation, as great as it is, don't misunderstand me. What's your experience in terms of other Rotary clubs as to the participation by members?
I think, Dwight, that you're right on with the numbers. They're very consistent across the board. I think most Rotary clubs need to improve the club experience. And then when the club experience has more value, both from an education and an entertainment perspective, I think more people will show up to those meetings. Again, too much dead air. The meetings are run too slow. I don't need to name names, but I do a lot of Rotary talks, and I was a guest at a club not long ago. It took them 6 minutes, and I know because I got it, 6 minutes, 50 drawing. It was like in slow motion, Dwight. And we need to value people's time. We have a separate problem in the Troy Club, and we may have some members of the Troy Club on with us today. They know it's a potential problem. We have a giant corporate member in the club, but our club is folksy and it doesn't move fast enough for the corporate people, right? Mm-hmm. Only recently we were able to get our meeting down from 75 minutes to 60 minutes. And there's not a lot of fat on the bone these days, but we still take a long time to do some stuff. And I think the people, the corporate people, the lawyers who are billing out at 6-minute intervals, they come to our meetings and they go, man, come on, speed it up here. I got stuff to do. And there's a little edge there, you know, we want to be decent. We want to do it the Rotary way, but we also have to decide which of these meeting segments are serving us and which of them may be weighing us down a bit. I'm not the one to best judge that. I think clubs are capable of deciding for themselves. But Dwight, I think when we provide a better club experience, that we'll see more people coming back to Rotary.
And the thing that I'm interested in, it seems to me that we're going to be using Zoom a lot longer than we ever anticipated, based upon what I read and what I hear. Yeah. And what I was wondering is, what can we do to get people to join in?
Oh, okay. So these meetings are great. And I know you guys do something that's really fun. You do the breakout rooms where people can visit. I always tell the people that are hosting, whether it's the president or whoever's in charge, that you want to do the same thing you would do in a physical meeting. You would call out Teddy and Millie. Can you hear me okay, Millie? You having a good time? And Danielle or Daniel, how are you? Great, nice to see you. And so what I'm doing is the same thing I would be doing in real life when I'm gesturing. Do you understand what I'm saying? In IT, they call it a ping, Dwight, P-I-N-G. So I'm just checking to be sure that you're with me and that you can hear me okay, and encouraging that type of interaction. I think when people feel involved, that the meeting becomes a better experience for them. And that's the hard thing on Zoom, is to keep people engaged.
Good point. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Michael, it's Dana.
Hi, Dana.
What did you guys cut out or slim down from your meeting, 75 minutes to 60 minutes? What did you let go of?
I think some of the things are just handled more efficiently than they used to be. I don't know that we actually excised anything. Presidents have tried things during their time, because presidents kind of have a unilateral decision power over some small things. Like a couple presidents in a row stopped ringing the bell, which, you know, doesn't take a lot of time to ring the bell. Invocations are sliding across the Rotary world, because we always tell people we're above religion, and then we mention God by name 3 or 4 times in the meeting, in the Pledge of Allegiance, in the invocation, various places. Well, visitors see this and they get confused. So our club found a way to go to a less, some people think this is blasphemy, but a less prayer-like invocation to something that had more value for everybody. And it's still spiritual, right? But it's not quite as religious, if you catch my meaning. But a lot of it was just running things more efficiently, like a radio program or a TV program. I think that's where we cut most of the fat off the bone.
Good, thank you. Do you do anything unique, like you mentioned our breakouts, do you do anything unique like that on your Zoom meetings for your club, just from a relationship building or a socializing perspective?
Not yet, but we did find on Zoom, and I'm going to take it back to them, because I do think that's a big part of Rotary, is that, you know, commiserating and visiting with people. And it's hard to do it when you have 55, you have a big club, 55 or 75 people fighting for one microphone. So it's a lot easier in the breakout rooms. But one of the things we discovered when we moved to Zoom was the recitation. You know what I mean by that? The 4-way test, the Pledge of Allegiance. it's bulky and it doesn't work from the technology point of view. We heard an example of that today even. Now, the club has to decide whether or not the solidarity of that and the patriotism that's demonstrated is worth it. But our club left that out pretty quickly in the Zoom process.
Thank you.
Sure. Other questions?
I hate to be asking all the questions, but give us an example of the kind of thing that you do that is not the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer type thing. How do you open your meetings?
Well, the current president has a regime where she's still ringing the bell. She still officially welcomes everybody. There's still an inspirational moment is how we bill it. She also still does the pledge. And the only thing we can figure is that she's a retired second grade teacher and she just loves the Pledge of Allegiance and she wants it in the meeting. She won't abandon it. But it's even money that next year's president will leave it out. I'll tell you an interesting anecdote. And by the way, my club's not a role model club for you necessarily. Every club has to find their way. But I'm interesting to you because I go to so many Rotary environments. I was scheduled to speak at 5 pets this year. I didn't get through the program because the wheels started falling off the wagon during COVID. But I can tell you, I was at a Rotary meeting, sitting with an attorney who was a guest to the meeting. It was actually my club. And we started to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I watched her. She was at my table because I was going to try to recruit her to the club because we need more professional people in the club. And I was watching her face at different points of the meeting. And they announced the Pledge of Allegiance, and she got this expression like, the what? You know, and she stood up like she hadn't said it in a long time. This is just my guess. And as we started to say the Pledge of Allegiance, she didn't know the words. And then she sat down, and you'll say, well, maybe we don't want her in the club. Maybe that's how it works out. I don't know. But she starts to text because we're not capturing her attention the way that maybe she thought that we would. Or maybe she's just impossible to get her attention because she's a busy attorney. But I invited her back. She never came back again. So I don't know what the exact answer is. And Rotary's like this big piece of sushi anyway with all these different flavors and the combination of flavors that we have to figure out. But we want people to not have a bad taste in their mouth when they come to Rotary. That would be working against all of our major goals here in terms of membership and keeping this vital organization alive.
Michael and Dwight, this is Tom. I want to let you know you can actually download a non-denominational invocations for Rotary meetings.
100%.
You just Google it, or it's on the Rotary website, I think, too. Okay.
Another great trick to that is you have the person do a modified vocational talk at the same time they come up to do the inspirational talk. So they say, hey, if anybody forgot, I'm a pharmacist at the such and such store. I've been there 20 years, and I spend most of my day doing this. Now I'd like to offer inspiration. And now you're getting a twofer.
Michael, Terry Davis here.
Hey, Terry.
Have a question about what I've noticed is the most variable part of the presentations are the slides. And wondering if you have a one-pager that says no font less than 32, no more than 25 words, so you can read it from the back. You know, you have so many speakers that say, I know you can't read this, but. So yeah. I mean, why do you even put it up if you can't read it?
Yeah, so Dana Vogelmeyer is a graduate of my Present Like a Pro class, and she will tell you I do have a one-pager, and it says no slides.
That's even better.
I think so. I think PowerPoint, and no disrespect to anybody that's a big fan, but I think PowerPoint's a cheat. I think that elite speakers don't need PowerPoint, except maybe to show very, very special slides that cannot be articulated verbally. But I'm with you. Anytime a speaker says, I bet you can't see the slides in the back of the room, bad mistake.
Yeah.
If I could, Teddy Darren here again, just reflecting on my club here in Antigua, we sing the national anthem and then we do the four-way test every meeting. And I totally resonate with what you're saying about cutting some things out. And not holding back. Just today when we do the Pledge of Allegiance, everybody's talking, and I think that's where you were saying, pointed what we already did today wrong. everybody's talking. Yes, we were used to doing it, but maybe we ought to just consider cutting that out because you can't hear it. You know, what everybody else is saying. Everybody's talking the exact same time, saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, or maybe modify it, Teddy. Maybe everyone's on mute except the one person, and we listen to that one person recite it. You know, maybe that's the magic of it. Where in some countries the Pledge of Allegiance has become less important. It's very important in island countries. I'm about 15 minutes from the largest border crossing in North America, and the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem is huge in Canada. They love it, and they sing, and it sounds good when they sing. You know, that's another thing people wonder about when they visit the clubs about singing. And I don't know anything here. Nobody told me to say this. Nobody told me to leave it out. But here's a good way to tell if your club's a singing club. Record yourself singing and play it back really loud. If it sounds good, you're a singing club, and it's a good experience for everybody. If it doesn't sound good, maybe that's one of the things that is from a bygone era. I don't know. Only you guys can decide that. Hi, Millie.
Michael, that's
Hi.
Hey, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the reason I became a Rotarian, I'm a naturalized citizen. And when I came to the first meeting, they said the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a prayer, and they had me. Because it wasn't a marshmallow club. It was a club that stood for things.
Yes.
I believe in those things. So
Yeah.
I hope we don't get rid of those. And there are always going to be some people that take a knee for the singing of the national anthem, but I'm not that person.
Yeah.
So that's just my thought.
Yeah, it's we need to take all this into account, Millie. I don't think Rotary has politicized the national anthem like it has been politicized elsewhere. On the other hand, almost every religion in America has been fighting relevancy issues, filling the churches, trying to keep people engaged, trying to keep people filling the offertory basket in the case of Catholicism. So what I'm after here in this kind of productive conversation, and I appreciate your patience, is relevancy. Because when Rotary is relevant in more ways with more people, it's better for the entire organization. That's my only point. So I hope that we continue with the things that you like about Rotary as well.
Mike, this is John. I'm going to cut in. We're about to the point where we need to, we want to get a little bit of breakout session, give everybody a chance to talk in a small group. So I think Scott's going to move us to that here in a little bit. And then we'll come back. If we get cut off,